Have you ever felt like you were in the wrong room? A place where everyone else seems to belong, and you are the only one who is different. A place where you feel small and quiet and completely out of place. It is a terrible feeling. We try to be invisible, to hide in a corner and hope no one notices us. But sometimes, in those very moments, a surprise is waiting for you. This is a story about a night like that. A night when I felt like I did not belong, and the whole world was about to find out I was wrong. Have you ever felt like you did not belong, but then something wonderful happened? I would love to read your story in the comments. My name is Dr. Aris Thorne, but my story begins when I was just the girl in the simple dress. My life is my work. I am a scientist, a biologist. I do not work in a big, famous laboratory. I work in a small, underfunded lab at a city university. My work is not glamorous. It is quiet, and it is slow. For the past 5 years, I have been working on a project to create a new, cheap, and simple way to clean dirty water, a way to bring safe drinking water to poor communities. It is my passion. It is my whole world. One day, I received a very important-looking letter. It was an invitation to the annual Innovation Gala. It was a huge, fancy event to celebrate the year's biggest achievements in science and technology. I was so surprised. I read the letter again. My small, quiet research project had been nominated for an award. It was a small award for new and upcoming researchers, but it was the biggest honor of my life. I was so excited. I did not have a lot of money. Scientists in my field do not. I did not have an expensive designer dress for a gala. I went to a normal department store, and I bought the most beautiful dress I could afford. It was a simple, long, dark green dress. It was elegant, but it was not flashy. When I arrived at the gala, I felt like I had walked into a movie. The ballroom was enormous, full of sparkling lights and beautiful people. The women were all in incredible, expensive gowns, covered in diamonds. The men were all in perfect tuxedos. And I was there, in my simple green dress from the department store. I felt like a small brown bird in a room full of peacocks. I did not know anyone. I just found a quiet corner, got a glass of water, and tried to be invisible. I was standing there, watching all the important people, when a group of 3 women walked over to me. They were all so beautiful, so confident, and their jewelry sparkled under the lights. One of them, a tall woman with a cold smile, looked at my simple dress. "Hello," she said, but her voice was not friendly. "Are you one of the waitstaff? We need more champagne at our table." I was so embarrassed. My face turned red. "Oh," I said, my voice a small whisper. "No, I am a guest. I am a nominee." The woman's eyebrows went up in surprise. She looked me up and down again, and then she laughed, a short, cruel laugh. Her friend smiled. "A nominee?" she said, her voice full of disbelief. "Really? Well, this is a very important event, for very important people. You seem a little lost. I am sure you are a nice girl, but you don't belong here." Her words were so cruel. I felt tears in my eyes. She was right. I did not belong here. I was just a simple scientist, a quiet girl in a cheap dress. I wanted to run away. I wanted to leave that big, sparkling room and go back to my small, safe lab. Just as I was about to turn and leave, the lights in the ballroom went down. The music stopped. A man walked onto the stage. It was the host of the awards ceremony. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice big and exciting. "Tonight we are here to celebrate the brightest minds in the world, and we are going to start with our biggest, most prestigious award of the evening, the Global Innovator of the Year Award." I stood in my dark corner, feeling so small and so stupid, ready to disappear. I stood in my quiet corner, my heart a heavy stone in my chest. I just wanted to leave. But now I was trapped, waiting for the awards ceremony to begin. The host on the stage was a famous TV personality. He was smiling his big white smile. "Tonight," he said, his voice booming through the ballroom, "we honor the people who are changing our world. We will begin with the biggest award of the night, the Global Innovator of the Year Award." A respectful silence fell over the room. This was the most important award in the world of science. The women who had been so cruel to me were standing nearby. They were whispering excitedly. "I am sure it will be Dr. Albright," one of them said. "His work in genetics is brilliant." "No," another one said. "It has to be Professor Chen. He is a genius." They did not even look at me. I was invisible to them again. The host continued. "The winner of this year's award is a person of incredible dedication and quiet genius," he said. "For 5 years, this person has worked with very little money and very little support. This person was not looking for fame or glory. They were only looking for a solution to one of the world's biggest problems, the lack of safe, clean drinking water." When I heard those words, my head shot up. My heart started to beat very fast. Clean water. That was my project. But it could not be me. It was a coincidence. I was just a nominee for a small student-level award. This was the biggest award in the world. "The winner's revolutionary new filter," the host said, his voice full of excitement, "is so simple and so cheap to make that it has the potential to save millions of lives. It is, without a doubt, the most important humanitarian invention of the decade." My mind was spinning. That was my filter. That was my work. But this was impossible. How could this be happening? The host opened the big golden envelope. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice full of drama, "the winner of the 2025 Global Innovator of the Year Award and a research grant of $5 million is Dr. Aris Thorne." For a moment, the name just hung in the air. My name. The ballroom was full of a confused silence. The important people in their expensive clothes were looking around. Who was Dr. Aris Thorne? They did not know the name. A huge photograph of me appeared on the big screens around the room. It was not a glamorous photo. It was a simple picture of me, in my lab coat, smiling, my hair messy. The 3 women next to me heard the name. They saw the picture. And then, slowly, they turned their heads and looked at me. They looked at the quiet, simple girl in the cheap green dress. Their faces, which were so full of arrogant confidence a moment ago, just crumbled. They were a picture of pure, horrified shock. They had not just been rude to a nobody. They had just insulted the most important person in the room. The host on the stage was looking for me. "Dr. Thorne," he called out, "where are you? Please come to the stage." And then, a bright white spotlight moved through the dark room. It moved past all the famous professors and the rich donors, and it stopped, right on me, on my little corner, on my simple green dress. The entire room, hundreds of the world's most powerful people, all turned their heads. And they all stared at me, the girl who was told she did not belong. The spotlight was so bright. I felt like a small, scared animal. I could not move. The whole room was staring at me. For one terrible second, I thought about running. I could just run out the door and disappear back into my quiet, invisible life. But then, I thought about the cruel words of the woman. "You don't belong here." And I thought about my work. I thought about the small villages with no clean water. I thought about the children who get sick. and a new, different feeling started to grow in my heart. It was a small spark of anger and a big wave of pride. Pride in my work. My work did belong here. So I took a deep breath, and I started to walk. It was the longest walk of my life. From the dark back corner of the room, all the way to the bright, shining stage. I could feel every eye in the room on my simple green dress, on my nervous, shaking hands. As I walked past the table where the 3 women were sitting, I saw them. They could not look at me. They were all staring down at their plates, their faces red with a deep and very public humiliation. I finally reached the stage. The host gave me the award. It was beautiful, and it was so heavy. The entire ballroom was on their feet, clapping. It was a loud, roaring sound. The host pointed to the microphone. I had to give a speech. I had not prepared a speech. I never, in my wildest dreams, thought I would win this award. I walked to the podium. I looked out at the huge crowd of important, powerful people. My heart was pounding. I took another deep breath, and I spoke. "Thank you," I said, my voice a small, shaky whisper at first. I am not very good at public speaking. I am much more comfortable in my quiet little lab. A few kind people in the front row smiled. "It is a strange and wonderful thing to be standing here tonight," I continued, my voice getting a little stronger. "Just 1 hour ago, a person in this room told me that I did not belong here. And I have to be honest. I agreed with her." A small gasp went through the room. I looked at the woman who had insulted me. She looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. "I looked at all the beautiful dresses and the famous faces," I said. "And I felt very small. I felt like I did not belong." But her words made me think. And I realized that maybe she was right. The person who works late into the night, the person with dirt under her fingernails from a broken water filter, the person who cares more about a child's health than a designer dress, maybe that person does not belong in a room like this. I paused. The room was completely silent. "But my work belongs here," I said, my voice now full of a new, strong confidence. "The idea that we can use our big, intelligent brains to solve the small, terrible problems of the world, that idea belongs here. The hope that every child on this planet can have a glass of safe, clean water, that hope belongs in every room. It is the most important idea of all." I held up my award. "This is not for me," I said. "This is for that hope. And it is for all the children we are going to help. Thank you." When I finished, there was a moment of complete silence. And then, the room exploded. The applause was 1,000 times louder than before. It was not just polite clapping. It was a real, emotional, and powerful wave of support. I had not been a perfect, polished speaker. I had just been myself. And for the first time, I felt walking off that stage was like walking into a new life. I was not the invisible girl in the corner anymore. For the rest of the evening, I was surrounded by some of the most brilliant and powerful people in the world. Famous scientists, the CEOs of huge companies, and wealthy philanthropists. They did not see my simple green dress. They saw me, Dr. Aris Thorne. They wanted to know about my work. They wanted to hear my ideas. The 3 women who had been so cruel to me were gone. They had disappeared from the party and from my mind. They were not important. The night of the gala was the end of my quiet, lonely work and the beginning of a new, exciting chapter. The $5 million award was more money than I had ever dreamed of. But I did not buy a new house or a fancy car. I took all of that money and I put it right back into my work. My small, underfunded lab at the university became the Thorne Institute for Global Health. I built a new, state-of-the-art laboratory. I hired a team of the brightest, most passionate young scientists I could find. We were a team of dreamers, people who believed that science could, and should, be used to help people. We were not just a lab anymore. We were a force for good. With the new funding and our new team, we were able to perfect my water filter design. We found a way to produce them quickly and cheaply. We were ready to share our invention with the world. My life is very different now. I have to go to meetings. I have to give speeches sometimes. I am not a quiet, invisible person anymore. But my heart is still the same. My favorite days are not the days in a big boardroom. They are the days when I can be in my lab, in my old lab coat, working with my team. About a year after the Gala, I was in a small remote village in Africa. It was the first village where we were installing our new water purification system. I was there, working with my team and the local people. My hands were dirty. My clothes were simple and practical. I was a long, long way from any glamorous ballrooms. One of the village elders, an old woman with a beautiful, wrinkled face, came and gave me a cup of water from our new filter. It was clean. It was safe. A small child ran up and drank from the cup, laughing a happy, healthy laugh. I stood there, under the hot sun, and I watched them. And I felt a joy so deep and so real, it was 1,000 times better than winning any award. That night at the gala, I was so scared because I thought I did not belong. But I finally understood. My place was not in a fancy room, wearing an expensive dress. My place was here, in the real world, doing real work that helped real people. The woman at the gala was right. I did not belong there. I belonged right here. And I was finally home. If this story about finding your true purpose inspired you, please give this video a like. What do you think is the best way to use your own special talents to help others? Share your ideas in the comments. For more inspiring English stories about making a difference, please be sure to follow our channel.